Words About Books. It's a poorly spoken podcast where we talk about books every single month. I'm Nate, repeating this for the second time because of technical issues, and that's Ben, my co-host, Sleepy Ben, as we call him around here. And this month, we are reviewing the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, another in a series of books with horrible psychological trauma underneath the surface of what would otherwise look like a fun romp. How's it going, Ben?
Well, going pretty good.
You mother... You son of a bitch!
I had to.
You had to.
I had to. Well, we gotta laugh while we can, Nate.
That's true. Because as soon as we start talking about this book, we're off to the races. Because if you'll recall, we ended on her overdosing on Paxil, and then she woke up in the hospital.
Yep. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
We decided last time to stop before we got into the complete 180 where this went from being a fun story about housewives fighting vampires to being about the brutal reality of trauma and neglect and abuse and gaslighting. And but then sometimes it'll take a break from that to again be a funny thing. Like they'll make jokes about like, we have to shampoo the carpet before the vampire gets back. Oh, and then...
Was that supposed to be a joke?
And then, yeah, I mean, it was supposed to be funny because that's not something anyone else would do. I know if I was in this situation, like, would you shampoo the carpet, Nate?
I would probably just trap him in the house and burn it to the ground with him inside.
Yeah. So
I'd also listen to my wife if my wife was like, I saw this man abusing a child in the back of his rape van. Do something. I wouldn't be like, oh, you silly wife.
But,
here's some antidepressants.
There's two sides to that because it's like, A, Carter thinks she's making it up, but like, B, he also doesn't care. Like, I don't think he'd care if it were true.
And C, he's invested a lot of money in that housing project, and like, we could use that money.
Yeah, B is the direct result of C. Carter is being paid to look the other way. All of these people are.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember what we said last time. Last time we talked about Patricia. I think I said she suffered embarrassment after embarrassment.
Yes.
And I think maybe now it's worth going down the list of the things that happened because that's kind of going to set the tone. We talked about Grace having a black eye and having her china that was previously established meant a lot to her smashed.
Her wedding china.
Yeah. And in addition to that, what I don't think we mentioned was that, what's her name? Mrs. Green?
Mrs. Green was like, you let our children be taken away.
Yeah. Mrs. Green was at Grace's house when Patricia showed up, and she made a point to let Patricia know that Child Services took away that girl's daughter, even though Patricia promised she wouldn't let that happen. And
so how could Patricia have changed that?
You know, I get Mrs. Green's perspective.
I get why she's upset.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
I get she's lashing out.
I just don't know, even if Patricia could... Even if Patricia did something about it, I think that they would have been like, who are you? Why are we going to listen to you?
Well, her husband was also there to promise that he would be able to pull some strings, and he had strings to pull. And he just didn't. He just blatantly didn't.
It would look bad for his promotion.
Right. Well, then why didn't he just say, no, I'm not going to do anything about it? Because he's a coward.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to look her in the eye and say, no, you don't matter to me. But, so not Marjorie. Oh my God, boy, I'm head full of ghosts is coming back to me. Patricia is feeling guilty about the girl being taken away. She's completely embarrassed. None of her friends can help her. And Grace, who you would think she would feel perhaps guilty about, or responsible at least, for the situation Grace is in, she wants Grace to go against her husband again. And when she doesn't, Patricia lashes out at her harder than any of the other women, even though Grace has
the most reason to not go.
Yeah, Grace's safety is at risk.
Yes, she could be killed by her awful husband.
Yeah.
The other ones were like, well, we're poor, or no, it was, well, my husband keeps blowing through money like it's going out of style, and like there's a lot of money tied up in this development project, and if it works out, we're gonna be rich again. So like, I'm gonna not jeopardize that.
Yeah. So she says something to Grace like, "You could be as complacent as you want. It's not going to stop him from smacking you in the mouth." And then she's like horrified at what she said, and she runs out, and that's when she decides to take all the pills. Now, the thing that I mentioned earlier in the first episode is that I think this 180, this sudden shift into a really brutally realistic depiction of a suicide attempt is unearned, is because, yes, Patricia's having an exceptionally bad day. And I don't mean to undermine or...
I feel like there's a reference to Batman the Killing Joke coming up. You have really one bad day and you become the Joker.
No, there's not.
Oh, okay. Well, I just made it for you.
I've never read The Killing Joke or watched it, so...
I read the synopsis on Wikipedia, so I'm an expert on these things.
You always read the synopsis.
Yeah.
You can't... You're hosting a book podcast, man. You got to go to the source.
No.
I don't have time. I'm hosting this book podcast.
Yeah, goddamn right.
So my point is, it's so out of left field for Patricia to attempt suicide after what, don't get me wrong, is super embarrassing, super demoralizing, and just... I don't want to downplay what happened to her here, or what she's seen, or the severe frustration she must have, but...
This went from an Agatha Christie novel to a true crime novel.
Nothing in Patricia's character up until this point makes us think she's capable of an action like this. Nothing in the book up until this point makes us think it's going to be this brutal of a story, like... And it gets worse. I mean, I guess I'm just going to go back to this.
Yeah, buckle up.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to go back to the summary real quick and say that, so Patricia attempts suicide. Blue finds her, seizing on the floor. He calls 911. The next thing we, the audience, know is Patricia wakes up in a hospital. Carter is there to yell at her.
Yeah, his first thing is not like, oh my god, are you okay? It's like, what were you thinking? Were you even thinking? Please tell me you just like got the dose wrong, Patricia.
Yeah, I thought I was supposed to take the whole bottle, but it turns out you're just supposed to take one.
She should have said that.
Yeah, I got the dose wrong.
Yeah, I really messed up that dose. I thought it said 20 pills, not 20 milligrams. It was my bad.
Yeah.
You never told me how to take it, Carter.
Yeah, so, again, like, why is this guy supposed to be a psychiatrist? I don't know. He's an
Well,
asshole.
as we find out, Ben, he didn't get the job as chief of psychiatry because Patricia tried to overdose on Paxil. They were like,
you think?
You need to take care of the affairs in your own home, man.
No. Let's actually re-examine that. I did actually highlight this in my book. I told you I only highlighted a few things. I highlighted Carter as this woman is strapped to a hospital bed after a suicide attempt, telling her that he didn't get the job because of her. And it's like, well, Carter, you're the psychiatrist here. Who gave her the pills?
Good point. She should sue him.
Like, Carter, I wouldn't give you the job either because you gave a patient who was not displaying any signs of depression, anxiety, or anything Paxil would treat a bunch of Paxil, and then she tried to commit suicide all in the span of like 5 hours. Like, Carter, you're a shitty psychiatrist.
Yeah, she could sue him for malpractice and probably win.
Yeah, there's no reason he should be chief of medicine. He's a terrible psychiatrist. If anything, Patricia continued to defend the children of this town by ensuring fewer of them will be subject to this dude's treatment plans. But it doesn't end there. So the woman is like waking up after seizing. I don't even know how lucid she would be. It can't possibly be productive in any way, shape, or form to yell at her right now.
Well, hold on. That's where you're wrong, Ben. I actually have it in my psychotherapy book. If a patient attempts to OD on something, yelling at them is the way to go.
Make them sure they know how much they let you down.
Yeah. You gotta yell at them, and you gotta make them feel worse, because only then can we rebuild you stronger than ever. Do not quote me on that.
But so, Patricia, I'm going to talk about this more, but let's see how the scene plays out. So, Carter, because he's not done yet, he's not done guilting Patricia. He brings in her traumatized children to...
Neither of whom want to be there.
Yeah, neither of whom want to be there. They don't know how to feel about this situation, especially Blue, the one who found her, even though he's a weird little Nazi prick.
Yeah,
is
Hitler prick.
Whatever. And he yells at her or something, and then they both leave. The girl won't even talk to her, and it's just this like gut punch of a scene where Carter's like, "You see that, Patricia? You see what you did? This is all gonna stop right now. Did you take all those pills because of that James Harris situation? Tell me it wasn't about James Harris. It'd be better if you
Do you have a weird attraction to him? What's your obsession with him?"
I saw him molesting a child, Carter. That's my...
Yeah.
I mean,
I saw him molesting a child and no one cares.
I couldn't have been more clear about that, Carter. I said it to you in front of a room full of people, and I'd say it again. I made that perfectly clear. And you told me I was insane, and you alienated me from all my friends, and the only thing I could think to do to take control of the situation was to hurt myself. So you tell me, Captain Psychology, you think this is over? You think we're good now?
As a matter of fact, yes. Yeah. After I guilted you and tied you to a bed on purpose and made our kids watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is over. Or we're gonna get a divorce.
So there's a couple of things going on right now. So Patricia's destroyed. Patricia, basically, she confronts James Harris about him being a vampire, or at the very least, some kind of...
drug-dealing child molester.
Yeah. And it destroys her life. And I want to talk about just why that doesn't work for me. I mean, it seemed out of nowhere for me. I don't know what your impressions are. I guess I've been talking a lot.
So... this scene, I don't know. This scene was not something that really bothered me. Like, I hated Carter, but it didn't seem to jar me as much as the later scene that we're gonna talk about.
That was worse. That was worse.
Oh God. Oh jeez. Yeah, that one was like, I'm done.
But I was just like, where is this? Where is this coming from?
The only thing that really jarred me about this was it was like a hard reset.
What bothered me is Patricia is going from a person who seems a little bit bored with her life to like she's borrowed thousands of dollars from their joint checking account to help James Harris. She's taken all these risks. She doesn't seem to be afraid of her husband. She doesn't seem to be threatened by him at all, or even like, I guess she's controlled by him in the sense that like she doesn't feel like that's her money, but at most Carter just seems like a career obsessed dick. It's not a Grace situation where he's actively harming her, like physically harming her. And so
I think she's more worried about her children.
This is really her first clash with Carter, and don't get me wrong, it was a big blow to Patricia's ego. It was very embarrassing, and Carter destroyed a very important part of Patricia's life. I just think that is a big leap to take. Like, I just did not see this woman doing the 180 into a suicide attempt. But I guess I'm going to appeal to you as somebody who has more experience with mental health. Does this jive? Does this pattern of behavior make sense to you?
I think this is another case of, like, when you sit down and you talk about the book and analyze it deeper, then it's something that sticks out to you more, at least for me, because it didn't stick out, like I said, the first time around. But, yeah, it is weird that she would try to overdose. She doesn't seem like someone who would, and she didn't have any outward signs of depression or previous suicide attempts, or, like there aren't a lot of, like, red flags here.
This brings me to the second aspect of it. There's, like, one, I think it's just for shock value. I think it's just, like, Grady Hendrix knows, like, I want the book to turn at this point, so I'm going to add this very shocking scene. And it works, but to me, it's just kind of cheap and manipulative the way he did it, because this wasn't earned, and I don't want to sound like... I would imagine most people, when they know somebody who attempts suicide, if you thought that they were the type of... There is no type of person that does that. I mean, we all could wind up in that situation given the right circumstances and triggers, but I just think, like, why did she do it? Like, that's such a big moment, and that's a life-defining moment. You know, whether she commits suicide, like whether she succeeded and killed herself, that would obviously be a life-ending moment, but...
And then Carter would go to the funeral and be like,
I can't believe she did this to me.
Yeah, I can't believe she did this to me. I didn't get my job because she killed herself. And that's what I'm putting on her tombstone.
But my main thing is, this is just a thing that happens, like it's just a one-off.
It's a weird reset in the story.
I'd be fine with it if he had something to say about it. I want to know more about why...
Nope.
I want to know more about why Patricia did this.
She did this so that Carter wouldn't get his job, Ben. I can't spell it out any more than that. That was the whole reason. It
would almost be better if she did. At least I'd know. At least I'd know, like, if she even... We need to examine, like, does she feel trapped? Does she feel like this is the only way to get anyone to listen to her? She's not... It's not evident to me, and it all happens so fast. And if Grady Hendrix's point is that, you know, in real life, it does happen so fast. Like suicide can be a reaction to these, like, deeply emotional and traumatic circumstances that Patricia's undergone. She's seen some truly horrible stuff. If she was so scarred by seeing the kid in that van, why do we get the wacky book club list-making scene where we're going to get all our evidence together and we're going to talk to the cops and we're going to have Grace put together the list because Grace has the best list-making skills? And it's like, it doesn't seem like the actions of somebody who's, like, deeply traumatized to me. She's...
Well, she's not. That's not at all what I got from that.
Yeah. And so then all of a sudden we're doing this. I just, like I said, I don't hate it because it's in the book. I don't even necessarily think it needs to be removed from the book. I just need to know more about what's going on. I know more about how Grace cleans her curtains than I know about why Patricia attempted suicide, and that is a huge problem to me.
Well, you need to know more about those curtains, actually, because that's important. Comes up later.
Obviously, if my main character attempts suicide, I'm gonna feel something. It's cheap, though. Like, it's like having the villain kick a dog, so you know you're not supposed to like him.
Which he probably does. He probably does kick dogs in his free time.
Yeah, it's cheap. It's always going to get a reaction. It's guaranteed. And I was just like, I don't think you invoke something like this so casually. And that's what it felt like to me. It felt like a very casual suicide attempt.
So right here, when you're editing, you need to put Ben talks about one scene for 25 minutes.
It's one of the most important scenes in the book. I'm fine talking about it for 25 minutes.
It's actually not, and that's the problem. It's not a very important scene.
Move us along. Please stop me.
She tries to kill herself, and then he's like, "We're gonna get a divorce unless you stop." And then we just jump ahead 3 years later, as if we reset everything. All right, so yeah, 3-year time jump, I guess. And James Harris, that whole housing development, just it took off, and now everyone is filthy rich. And now the book club is gigantic and also full of men. And I think Marjorie Fret whatever from the beginning was there. And I still don't understand why she's important. And then Patricia's like, yeah, I kind of don't care about any of those women anymore after they gave up on me. Except for Slick. I really like Slick. Sure hope nothing bad ever happens to Slick. But what are the odds of that? Slick is going to be fine. She's actually only a few weeks away from retirement. Like, nothing bad's going to happen here.
I was taking a drink. You can't do that to me.
Just don't get into the mic. So, her husband now works private practice and spends a lot of time out of town and out of state. And I think the implication is he sleeps with other women.
She keeps getting calls from young women asking for him, and she just forwards the phone number. Like, basically, we find out that Patricia has just been
sleepwalking for the last 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, she hasn't engaged. She kind of knows her husband's cheating on her. She doesn't care. Everybody just seems willing to forget and pretend that her suicide attempt didn't happen.
And the children who are disappearing didn't disappear?
Yeah, well, and children have kept disappearing.
I mean, if it's a child per month or per year?
I think it's per year.
Yeah, I think it's per year. A child per year, I mean, you know.
It's a death per year, but he feeds or whatever more than once a year, for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
I think he switches victims once a year.
Oh, okay. That's what. So, yeah, children keep disappearing. Carter's cheating on her. Her kids are really distant. Blue is still obsessed with Hitler. Corey is going to go to college soon and is a teen still, just a typical teen. There's a point where, is that coming up yet? Where he spray paints the dog and then he starts talking back to his dad.
No, I do want to point out, on a lighter note, something I did enjoy, and this was a bit of humor, is Grady Hendrix's critique of Tom Clancy.
Oh, yeah.
Did you even pay attention to that?
I saw that it was in there. They made a joke. I was like, ha ha. Yeah.
Now that there's all these good Southern conservative men in the book club, they read Tom Clancy novels, and Patricia doesn't like them because they're filled with acronyms and stale writing, and I also don't like Tom Clancy novels.
Well, if it helps, isn't he dead?
Is he?
Is he not? Yeah, he's been dead since 2013.
Shit.
I think that he's still publishing books. Someone's using his name.
Yeah, that's why I was confused.
Yeah.
Is it a ghostwriter, or did he just have that much ready to go?
I have no idea. Nor do
Next
I
month
care.
on Words About Books,
We're going to read
we're
all
gonna
of
be covering
Tom Clancy's...
Rainbow Six by Tom Clancy.
Is that an actual book? I'm sure it's probably
I think
a
it
book.
is. Yeah. I've only ever played the games, and I'm not good at them.
Well, to be fair, they're bad games. Take that, Tom Clancy. God, where were we? Oh, we're talking about how Carter was like, I'll go speak to the boy after he spray painted a dog. I'll go have a firm talk with my son. And he sits down and he's like, now, son, what did you do at school? And the son's like, you, Dad, I'm out of here. And he's like, he never used to backtalk me before when I paid attention to him like 4 years ago. That's really weird for him. It's almost like I'm a bad
Maybe I can call James to have a man-to-man talk with him.
Yeah. We need to get James Harris in here to make my son nicer.
So all we know about Blue is he's socially awkward and he's
Is he socially awkward?
Yes. His only friend is a grown man. A vampire, nonetheless.
Okay. What, you're trying to tell me that he is not super popular with the ladies at school when he brings up that Hitler stuff. He's like, hey, do you know this obscure fact about Hitler? You want to go to prom?
But so the way they frame this, they don't tell you he spray painted a dog. Patricia says, Blue, you abused an animal.
Yeah.
I really thought...
Yes.
After the suicide attempt and the rats eating somebody's face, I was like, oh, what did this kid do to this dog?
Yeah, I was thinking like he killed a dog.
Like cut its tail off or something.
Yeah. And instead it's like, I spray painted him, it was a prank. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I was like,
I don't
okay,
think I would have framed it
boy.
as abusing, but...
Yeah, you gotta use that word gingerly around the Hitler obsessed, because that can go a long way.
Yeah, so he storms out. It's picked up by James Harris, and he spends the night at James Harris's giant mansion that he built.
Yeah, the McMansion. I guess for our foreign listeners, a McMansion is when you buy a small, normal, like 1 acre plot of land, and you build a house that stretches from one end to the other with no yard, trying to fit a mansion in essentially a suburb, and it's very tacky and classless. And that's what James Harris is all about. Mostly because he knows his audience.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they let their teenage son spend the night with the man Patricia saw molesting a child in the back of a van.
Well,
that is how zombified she is.
Yeah, here's the thing. She just pretends that didn't happen until Miss Mary's ghost appears to her, and I was like, what did you think of that? Miss Mary's ghost is like...
I feel like I was like, why not? So, if you take out the totally unearned human trauma moments from this book...
Well, that's what makes it seem more gritty and grounded. It doesn't seem like the novel that should have a ghost.
Yeah. If you take out all those bits, there's only like 2 or 3 of them, but they're in such stark contrast to the rest of the book that it ruins it for me. But if you took those out, it would be a perfectly fun B horror book, totally aware of itself and totally not caring. And I'd love it. Like, I don't care that Miss Mary's ghost appears. Unfortunately, I'm still traumatized from the suicide attempt, and I can't laugh right now.
So, here's the thing. This stuck out to me like a sore thumb, so maybe I viewed the book differently than you. That's why the suicide attempt was like, okay, suicide attempt. Yeah, it's a gritty, grounded, crappy horror film, or novel, or whatever. And you were thinking, like, it's going to be like Scooby-Doo, and there's going to be a funny spirit to tell you there's an evil vampire, and then, oh yeah, let's overdose on Paxil.
I was thinking it was going to be like Evil Dead. I was thinking it was going to be campy.
I hope you don't mean the first Evil Dead, because, oh boy.
I like the first Evil Dead.
There's a scene in that that's just as,
Oh, the trees?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they don't show it.
That's true, because then it would probably never have... hit theaters.
No, it barely hit theaters with that. But okay, Army of Darkness. We can agree on Army of Darkness is campy.
Army of Darkness is great.
Yes. So I thought we were going to have like a nice, fun, campy horror thing where housewives have to fight a vampire and they have to use their housewife skills, which are like spying on the neighbors and like bringing over casseroles to scope out the situation and like
gossiping about him to destroy him socially.
Yeah, I was down with that. I wanted to see housewives kill vampires. I didn't want to see brutal depictions of sexual assault.
God, no one did.
Spoilers.
And again, there should have been a content warning at the beginning of the book. Which, by the way, everyone, we put a content warning at the beginning of our last podcast. Here it is for this one. Oh, God. Yeah, Miss Mary's ghost to me felt like a shift, but you're right. If you just took out the weird, like, graphic depiction of someone's psyche collapsing, it would have fit in. It would have been like, oh, yeah, a ghost is here now. It reminds me of A Tale of Two Batmans with, like, the Joel Schumacher and then the Christopher Nolan. If you just took scenes from, like, The Dark Knight and put them in Batman and Robin. Like Mr. Freeze is like, "Ice to meet you," and then the Joker cuts a guy's face off.
He shoves the pencil through his eye.
Yeah. Yeah. Either tone could have worked if they were consistent throughout.
Yeah, you can't have Miss Mary's ghost show up and be like, "Hey, Patricia, you're supposed to care about dead kids." Did you forget that? Did you forget that when your husband threatened to tear your life apart because he's heavily invested in the child molester's scheme?
Yeah. So she tells Patricia, like, "Hey, Mrs. Green has a photograph of Hoyt Pickens, which is, in fact, James Harris. Go see Mrs. Green. It's time to jumpstart this plot. You've been doing nothing for 3 years." So she goes to Mrs.
I guess
Green.
we're supposed to take it... I didn't really pay attention to this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I guess we're supposed to take it that the gaslighting worked, that she honestly doesn't believe she saw what she saw anymore.
Well, there is a part in the book where she just straight up says, like, Patricia just did her best to not think about that weird appendage that came out of his mouth. Like, it was all a dream.
That doesn't make it better. That makes it worse. Yeah. Because then he's not a vampire. Then he's just a dude with a kid in his van.
Well, she imagined it. It was really dark out. You know, maybe it was foggy that evening, and like, you know, maybe there wasn't even a van there. Maybe it was all just an optical illusion.
Here's my problem, and this is why I talk about the suicide for 25 minutes, because we need Miss Mary's ghost to put this story back on track, because after that shit...
because it really derailed the story.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Please go on. Tell us what happens with Mrs. Green.
No, absolutely. The story definitely falls off a cliff, and then they have to jumpstart it again. But, yeah. So, she goes see Mrs. Green, and Mrs. Green's kind of, like, pissed at her, because she and everyone else just abandoned her. And, like, their little settlement, I guess it's part of the same town, but it's, like, miles and miles away, right? Something like that?
It's a segregated neighborhood. Like, basically, they have the white neighborhood and the black neighborhood.
That neighborhood has been bought up for that development project, and most of the people are fleeing because their children are going missing, so they're selling at dirt cheap prices to get the hell out of Dodge. And Mrs. Green was like, "Yeah, you abandoned me. I had to send my kids upstate. I haven't seen them in years, and you guys are awful. But yeah, here's my picture."
You make a good point that I didn't think about, because I was so distracted with the stuff I've been talking about. I didn't put together that they were building their new development over top of this cheap property that is cheap because the lead investor is terrorizing these people.
Yes. At one point, one of the husbands says, "We got that at a fair market value price."
You are right. That is actually a good detail I missed. That is a point in the story's favor. Because I was going to say Mrs. Green's anger was kind of like... being like, the fact that it was all directed at Patricia seemed a little harsh, but with that in mind, the fact that her family is making bank off the terrorism inflicted on this community, I can see why Mrs. Green is pissed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Specifically at Patricia, yeah.
Yeah, Mrs. Green shows the photograph of Hoyt Pickens, and that's when Patricia knows it's for sure James Harris, and Mrs. Green has a plan. She is a cleaner now for like a corporation, and James Harris contracts with that corporation to clean his house.
It's like a Merry Maids kind of thing.
Yeah, and Mrs. Green is going to be over there when he's out of town, and she's going to clean around the house, and she's going to try and find some sort of evidence. She thinks that he's the kind of creepy weirdo who keeps trophies, which, you know, probably does. And
by the way, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
No, he keeps one thing.
He keeps one thing for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
He doesn't take trophies from his victims. That is not a thing he does.
But he does have a mountain of evidence. So Mrs. Green tries to enlist Patricia, like, you know he's not going to stop. You abandon us. time to get back into this. And Patricia's like reluctant, but she's like, yeah, you know what? You're right. But maybe I'll go get Slick. I'll go see if Slick would be interested in helping out. She shows Slick the photo, and Slick is like, well, let me keep that information. And I guess Mrs. Green also pulls together a bunch of other information about Harris, like, I can't even remember what, but some sort of evidence and the photograph. And Slick decides to keep it, and Patricia lets her for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of past the evidence stage. They do keep having evidence, but it's like enough people have caught this guy in the act now that...
Yeah, it would make sense if they attempted to get him arrested or run out of town, and it failed, and they had to take matter into their own hands. It's just the weird, like, 3-year time gap between those two stages.
Yeah, that is another weird choice. I mean, I guess it paces it out long enough for him to maybe plausibly have succeeded.
Yeah, I guess.
And the fact that he's picking on marginalized communities. So I think we talked a little bit about some of the reviews mentioned that the book is racist.
Which I disagree with.
I disagree as well.
First of all, the vampire does not exclusively eat black children. That's false. But he goes after marginalized people, like you said. He goes after people that the police would be less likely to look into. It's more of a commentary on society.
Well, it's an established pattern that serial killers have. Like, Jeffrey Dahmer went after...
Jack the Ripper.
A lot of black men. Jack the Ripper went after prostitutes. A lot of people go after prostitutes. There's serial killers. Recently, there was one up in Canada who was stalking the gay community, and the cops refused to hear about it.
Yeah, I think it's more commentary on society than it is racist.
I don't know exactly. I'm kind of strawmanning here. I don't know exactly why some of the reviews thought it was racist. Maybe it could have been the way black people are portrayed within the book. But at least as far as the vampire's targeting goes, I don't think that was racist. I think that was a commentary on actual criminal behavior. So just getting that out of the way.
Yeah, I thought that review was reaching. Anyway, yeah. So are we good to move on to Patricia going into James Harris's house? Yeah,
so, well, are you going to mention... She attempted to recruit Slick, but Slick kind of ghosts her.
I already mentioned that. Slick, I guess I didn't mention that Slick was going to prey on it.
Yeah.
And she might show up and help her out. She might not. They go into James Harris's lair. Mrs. Green is there cleaning, and they make up some excuse like, oh, hey, I left my wallet over here or something. It'll just take me a moment. And there's another cleaner there who's like, I don't think she says a word. She's just like,
she reaches for her radio,
or whatever. Yeah. And then she's like, well, hold on. Would Benjamin Franklin change your mind?
She does not pull out a 50. She pulls out a crisp Thomas Jefferson.
Oh, well, first of all, Benjamin Franklin's a 100, but yeah, okay, fair enough.
My bad. I don't have a lot of money.
She pulls out chump change. You have to at least pull out a... Is Andrew Jackson still on the 20, or have we replaced him?
No, Andrew Jackson's still going.
All right. She should have at least pulled out an Andrew Jackson and been like, would this change your mind?
There's a recurring motif of Patricia not knowing how much money poor people need.
Yeah, that's true.
She, initially, when Mrs. Green gets injured trying to save Miss Mary, she and Carter write Mrs. Green a check for compensation, failing to take into account that Mrs. Green has sustained injuries that will keep her from working for weeks, and $1,000 extra doesn't do anything for her. And now she's trying to bribe this lady, and she has no idea how much to give her.
With a 5.
Yeah.
Here's a 5. Will that allow me to snoop in this guy's house? And I guess it works, because she's like, okay, whatever. And so Patricia,
she's like, I'm looking for my car keys. Let me just go up to the attic.
Well, first they stake out every room, and there's like nothing there. It's like, well, yeah, what would you expect? And she's about to give up. Like, well, I guess we didn't find anything. And they're like, hey, there's a drawstring for an attic. you want to go into the attic? And turns out she does want to go into the attic, and so she does. And in the attic, she finds a bunch of, like, moldy, gross, like, sheets or something, like blankets, just infested with crap.
This was another just, like, the man writes a good horror scene, and it was gross just for gross sake.
I wanted to vomit.
Yeah. There's, like, bugs crawling in every orifice, and it's...
A bug crawls into her ear, and I was just like, huh? But they do find a trunk, Ben, and this is where you're wrong. She finds a trophy.
That's not a trophy.
A victim.
That's the victim.
Trophy being her body. For some reason, why does he have this? Did he not have a way to dispose of this in the last 3 years?
Dude, I got clothes in my attic that I said I was going to go through, like, and they've been in there since I moved.
You go into your attic?
I'm probably just going to throw them out when I move again.
I have never gone into any attic of any house, apartment, or townhome that I've been in.
Why?
Why would I?
That's space you're paying for.
Yeah, it's space I don't want to see. It's just out of mind.
You can store things there.
I can store things other places.
Like where?
And if I don't have enough, if I have too much stuff for my storage, it's time to get rid of some crap.
Where are you keeping this stuff? If you tell me you have a storage container somewhere.
No, I have a spare bedroom.
Okay, like counting your upcoming child?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, Moneybags.
We can't all have spare bedrooms.
Yeah, we don't all have 3-bedroom houses, okay?
4-bedroom.
Oh, you.
Oh, this office I'm recording in is one of those other bedrooms.
I'm recording in my 2nd bedroom. If I ever have a child, it's bring a kid to work day every day.
Yeah, this is Patricia's me. I'm gonna hand you a 5, Ben. Is that gonna help you out? Is that?
Yeah.
Can you buy another bedroom with this $5?
It's gonna help me get one of those low money down mortgages. Thanks.
Oh God, man, what were we talking? Oh yeah, she found the body.
What were we talking about? Were we talking about how much money I had? Do you want to know how many cars I own?
Oh yes. So yeah, why does he have a body in here, Ben? Like, I know that you have clothes in your attic that you're like, well, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ever gonna get rid of those.
You have clothes in your attic that you crawl up into with your peasant legs. But like, why would a man with money have stuff in his attic?
Well, first of all, yes, and second of all, if your clothes were a thing like,
yeah, no, if they were evidence.
Yeah, if they were evidence of a violent crime.
Yeah, that did make me laugh that it's been in there this whole time. I guess I could only think that he just forgot. Like, he just casually kills so many people that he's just like when he realizes that that's still in there and that, like, she might have found out, he's like, oh, shit.
Damn it. I knew I should have thrown that out 2 years ago. Damn it.
That's a whoopsie daisy. Also, why did he kill this one?
Yeah, I don't understand that, because she dies very quickly.
Yeah,
like,
why doesn't she just go walk in front of a bus? Why didn't rats eat her? Where's the rats? Well, they could take care of that.
She went into the house, and then he kills her. And it's like, she didn't see something she shouldn't have. Because he didn't kill Patricia.
The vampire activity in the first third of the book is like very classic vampire stuff, and we established that in the first episode. And now we're at the point where it's like, oh wait, that's not how this guy works. Why is there a ghoul? Why is there like rats?
Well, the ghoul would make a lot of sense if like there were more of them, but there never are.
That's the thing. Why can't an Anne Savage type just go take care of this guy for him, or this girl for him?
Yeah, why doesn't he have little human servants or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, Dracula has the Spice Girls.
The Spice Girls.
I don't know what they're called, but
I actually think that they're called something like that in Scooby-Doo.
You know a lot about Scooby-Doo.
I know. I do. I do know a lot about Scooby-Doo. I probably know more than I should about Scooby-Doo.
Well, that'll be good when you have a kid. You can watch Scooby-Doo together, and you can...
We'll be like, do you know who the creeper was? It was that guy who worked at the bank the whole time.
He's the only other guy in the cartoon.
Yeah. Turns out that guy warning them not to go to that castle because it was haunted, it was him.
You know, the thing about Scooby-Doo, they're all about solving mysteries, right? They drive around in the mystery machine, but they never solve a mystery. They just beat the guy over the head with a club or something and then take his mask off, and they're always shocked to find out who it is. They're always like, let's split up and look for clues. They never use the clues.
That's not true. They're like, I think I know who's behind all this, and we're gonna find out when we club them.
Yeah, it's like, why don't you just start with the net?
He's gonna slip on this soap, fall into the roller skates, slide downhill into this open door, which will clothesline him unconscious, and then we'll pull the mask off.
And he would have gotten away with it too, if it weren't for vigilante justice.
Well, he got away with it too if he just didn't have a glass jaw like all the others.
Anyway, James Harris has a body in his attic.
Yeah, James Harris has a body in his attic, and then when Patricia finds this and is like, "Oh my God, I need to remove this from the house for some reason," James Harris comes home early from that business trip, and then he's like, "Hey, Mrs. Green and other lady, that's a sweet Lincoln, by the way. Anyway, you guys can go. I don't need you guys here anymore. Thanks for all the cleaning. All right, yeah, okay, thanks, bye. Hey, Patricia, I know you're in this house, and I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna get you."
Yeah, I also like how James Harris obviously knows Mrs. Green knows.
Right?
He tried to kill her with rats, and it's been the kids in her community he's hunting. And it's his van. She's the one that wrote down the plates. And hell, the only reason Carter didn't tell James Harris that Mrs. Green was in on it is because he doesn't know her name.
Yeah. You're not wrong. Yup. Well, yeah, so he spends an agonizingly long time looking around, trying to find Patricia. Eventually he comes into the attic. Patricia hides in like a mound of gross, dirty rags where a bug crawls in her ear. And James Harris is like, "I can see you," when he's right next to her, but he can't see her. Because he then just he walks away.
It was a bluff.
He walks down the stairs of the attic. And then Patricia's trying to count the steps. I bet he's just waiting at the bottom. I'm going to come out, and then he's going to get me. And then he closes the attic. And Patricia gets out, and she's like, "Yeah, I'd rather him just murder me than have to go into that pile of old gross blankets and bugs again."
You know what he probably should have done? At that point, he probably should have gotten rid of the body.
Yeah, he probably should have taken it with him. Yeah, you're right. And Patricia's just like, "I can't believe Slick did this. It's obviously Slick. God, I hate her so much. I can't believe she'd betray me." And then the attic opens, and she's like, "Well, I guess I'm dead." And up comes Kitty. Kitty's like, "Hey, we gotta go."
Well, yeah, James Harris gets a call, and he's like, "What? When? I've gotta go."
Yeah, Kitty was like, "Yeah, Mrs. Green, lit the housing development on fire and told me to come get you out." And Patricia's like, "Hey, here's a dead body." And they're like, "Okay, I see it. We still gotta go, but now I believe you." And so they go, but first they decide, he'll know we were here. We need to shampoo the carpets. But he knows you're here already.
Yeah, he does. And so, but that's the thing. Now we're back to wacky housewife hijinks. Because they're housewives, they know how to erase every trace of their muddy footprints from the attic. So there's a cleaning montage where it's they're taking all these risks to shampoo the carpet because that's their undervalued skill. And it's again, I was here for that. This is what I wanted. But,
that's not what you got.
It's not what I'm about to get.
Nope. Oh, God, that is coming up.
Yeah.
Oh, God. So, yeah, they make their valiant escape just in the nick of time as James Harris opens up the front door. I think maybe he like drops his keys or picks the wrong key or something stupid to buy them a few extra seconds. I might be making that up, but whatever.
No, that happens. Like the doorknob turns, and they're like, "Oh no, she's not going to make it. There's no way she can make it because she left like the paper towels in the wrong place." And so she has to run back for the paper towels and put them on the paper towel holder. And it's like, again, this is what I was here for. Loved every minute of that.
Yeah.
We almost got the book back on track.
Oh god, and then it's irreparably damaged after this. So yeah, they make their escape into the night, and Patricia's like, we're gonna talk about this later. Like, what the hell just happened there? But we go the next day, and it's like Halloween, and first of all, Blue's just gonna hang out at James Harris's house on Halloween.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Patricia is not super committed to Blue.
Yeah, we're tired of his Hitler stuff. You know, it's time for him to go.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Blue, like, she doesn't want him to die, but if she's got to pick one, sorry, Blue.
Yeah, Corey's a typical teenager. You're like a weird Hitler-obsessed weirdo, so...
Yeah, Blue, I'll be real, I don't know if we can salvage this, man. We'll give it a shot, but like, yeah, if you want to go to James Harris's for the night, go ahead, dumbass. Go talk to that strange adult man who shows a surprising interest in you. The one I accused of being a child molester, and then your, father prescribed me antidepressants and I tried to kill myself over it. You know... That guy,
wacky James Harris.
That family friend.
So he does that. And then, I don't know how I want to approach this. I'm just going to skim over this as much as possible. She gets a call from Slick, and we find out that Slick was sexually assaulted by James Harris, and he took all the evidence that she had on him. And it's very graphic, and it's very uncomfortable to read. I'm sure it's even worse for someone who has trauma. And it goes on a while, and eventually Slick ends up in the hospital with an autoimmune disease.
I promise, whatever you're imagining for that scene, it's worse.
Oh, yes. It's so much worse.
It's extra.
I can't recommend this book to anyone I know.
No, that scene is so extra. And yeah, you're absolutely right. The suicide thing, maybe we could get past. This, it's so extra. I mean...
Yeah, it's too much. It's way too much.
We're not going to try to impress upon you why we're saying it's so bad, but like, just know, as described, it's so much worse than that.
Yes.
It's so much grosser. It's brutal. And the like Slick is having like very genuine emotional reaction to everything, and it is very hard to read.
Yeah.
And again, stops the book dead because we can't...
Oh, I wanted to stop reading at that point.
We can't have any more wacky housewife hijinks after that.
Yeah. If this were a book I had just picked up for fun, we weren't going to talk about it on a podcast, I would have stopped reading right then and there. I would have been like, yep, I'm not going to know how this ends. I'm sure... I don't want to know how it ends, really. I'm done.
So window into the behind the scenes, I guess, is... Nate finished the book before I did, and when I got to this part of the book, I texted him and I was like, "Oh my god, I wish I had not picked that book for this podcast." And he goes, "Oh, you got to that scene, huh?" I was like,
"Yeah,
yep." We didn't even have to say what it was.
Yeah, I remember texting you because I was ahead of you, and I was like, "Yeah, I really don't want to read this," and you're like, "Well, you need to like broaden your horizons or whatever," and then yeah, you read it and you're like, "Yep." Sorry.
Yep, I was wrong. They were broad enough. My bad. Yeah, we didn't need that. No, I like genuinely, I had a moment of like sheer panic when I read that scene because I was like, oh my god, I have to talk about this. Another little window into the behind the scenes. I barely finished this book in time to record the first episode, and it was way too late at that point to take anything back or put out any like extra warnings. I was like, if anybody was going to read the book along with us, they already read it, and I'm sorry.
Right.
I did not see that coming.
Oh, man.
And, though I will say, I think that is the worst scene in the book. It's not over. Hey everyone, it is Editor Ben here. This was initially intended to be one episode, but it is looking like I am going to have to cut it into two for time. So, we are going to have to end on that happy note. Look forward to next week when we will have our final episode in our series on the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. And I promise, there are more horrors yet to come. As a reminder, next month we will be covering Dark Force Rising by Timothy Zahn. Please don't forget to follow us on Twitter at WABpod. Check out our blog over at blog.wordsaboutbooks.ninja. And if you like what we do, please spread the word, share us on social media. Really helps the podcast. And it is the best thing you can do for us right now. With all that said, thank you everyone, and good night.